Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and first things first, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. There's going to be all kinds of spoilers, specifically story spoilers, so if you don't want to see spoilers, do not watch this video. I'll even put in the description as well as the title that there are spoilers, so if you've come this far, well then you must want to hear what I have to say about Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. I reviewed Everybody's Gone to the Rapture last Tuesday, but I wanted to talk a bit more about some of the stuff that went on in it, specifically story stuff that I found either interesting or just wanted to put out there. Now, I said that I love the story, and I do, but I'll admit I'm not 100% on my read of the ending. But I will put my theory out there on the ending. This is one of my opinion pieces, so I get the right to do that. I'm still not 100% on what the pattern even was. To Kate, it seemed to be some kind of alien organism, and to Steven, it seemed like a pattern of death, essentially. And to him, it seemed to spread kind of like a disease, but I'm not really sure that that's exactly what it was. That's one thing I will say about this game. It was really interesting getting to see the different perspectives. Steven's perspectives, generally through the memories, and Kate's perspectives, generally through the radio conversations she was having with nobody in particular. She was just putting them out there in hopes that somebody was hearing them. It wasn't until later in the game that I realized why Kate wasn't really worried or afraid of what was happening and why she wasn't trying to stop what was happening like Steven was asking her to. And it's because she was experiencing the pattern in a completely different way from everyone else. And it wasn't until Kate's section and really the very, very end of Steven's that I began to understand it a little bit more. Part of it was in Steven's section at the very end, you realize that it doesn't know exactly what it's doing. And it doesn't fully understand that what it's doing is wrong to the people that it's doing it to. In other words, giving them the headaches, giving them basically an illness, and then making them vanish. Steven tells a story about this injured fox that his family took in and how it ended up biting Steven, but it didn't really understand that it was hurting Steven. It didn't really understand what it was doing to him. And that's the best analogy for what this pattern, alien organism, whatever it is doing to this village. And very late in the game, you begin to understand that this pattern, it cares for Kate, essentially. And what it's doing to the village is because, well, they were never really nice to Kate. They really didn't like Kate. And it's doing what it did to Steven and Lizzie because, well, what they did to Kate. Which I guess that requires some clarification. First off, Steven was originally from Yachten, the village that this all occurs in. He left, became a scientist, and he came back with his new wife, Kate, because the company that they worked for had an observatory facility set up there. While there, Steven begins to cheat on Kate with his ex-fiancée, Lizzie, who is also married to a guy named Robert, who's not really important to what I'm talking about now, but point being, Steven really wounds Kate, and Lizzie helps in the process. The interesting thing is, the further you go in the game, you realize that Kate's wounded by it at first, but she gets over it because she understands it, and that's interesting, and I'll touch on that a bit more later. One thing I did really enjoy in this game was that you get to, through the memories, experience these other people's lives. Like Frank, I really liked his, whereas Wendy, I really couldn't stand hers. She was an obnoxious bitch whose goal was to shit on Kate. So it was kind of hard to like her, but all at once, it was still very interesting, and they did a great job fleshing out these characters. You really got to understand the villagers, and that takes a lot of talent, quite frankly. Okay, now I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the ending, and this will lead me back to Kate not being mad about Lizzie and Steven, because she understood that they loved each other. And that's kind of a huge part of the ending of this game, or at least the ending message that I walked away with. I mean, not every game has one, but this one seemed to, and the ending message seemed to be that there is someone out there for everyone. And while it's kind of weird that in Kate's case that someone was more of a something, this alien pattern, it was hers. Her and this pattern were like meant to be together. So that was kind of an interesting concept, but she wasn't mad because she realized that Steven and Lizzie were meant to be together. There was another couple in the game whose names are now escaping my mind. They were young, and in love in this game, and they were meant to be together. And like, Kate gets this, the pattern gets that it's meant to be with Kate, which is why it does this to the village, does what it does to Steven and Lizzie, because it's meant to be with Kate, and it loves her, and it wants to protect her, essentially. Another idea that seemed to be going on in this game, and I could be wrong, is that in the case of this pattern, it didn't know what it was doing to the people of the village, kind of like the fox in Steven's tail. And I think the message there was, just because somebody else can't understand what's running through your mind and you can't understand what's running through theirs, anger and hate are probably not the best knee-jerk reactions. In the case of this pattern, it ended up killing or vanishing. I don't know what exactly happened to these other people, but it was doing that because it didn't understand, and it was doing that to protect Kate, but it could have done that in a different way, it seems. But it was doing that because it really didn't understand that these people weren't really trying to hurt Kate. Okay, now I get those ideas are really sappy. They're just my read on the situation, and I will tell you that I'm generally not a sappy guy like that, but hey, why don't you tell me what your read on the ending was in the comments below? Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and if you like what I'm doing in general, subscribe. Have a good one.